So I'm back with part 2 of my 2015 Let's Test experience report, and decided to take a little bit of a stroll because there was a large group of Segways on the tour that decided to camp out right in front of me. So continuing on, as I mentioned, this was definitely the year of the workshop for me. I'm not going to go through everything that I went through, but I wouldn't mind highlighting some of the parts that were most special to me. At the end of the first day, we went for an interesting workshop run by Hynie, where it was effectively a little walk through the park, and I guess it was just a stroll through the park and chatting about testing, but I have to admit that was one of the most enjoyable experiences I had in a long time. I thoughtfully drifted between conversation to conversation, and had an opportunity to have some really interesting discussions with quite a few people I had not met before. And it was an exceptionally enjoyable experience. I'm starting to realize that I need to start introducing going for walks with my coworkers more often. I actually had a very long chat with Laurent Bossavi, who is someone I've always had tremendous respect for, but I've never had a chance to chat with him, and that may be one of my highlights actually from this conference. I'm breathing hard because I'm going up a lot of stairs. Maybe I'll pause for a second. And I have to thank Hynie for this, because I think that I've sort of I think that I've adapted to my current work surroundings, where I work quite far away from many other things. I'm not taking enough opportunities to go for outings with my coworkers, and it reminded me just how enjoyable a casual stroll is with someone, and how much more comfortable it is, for example, to have a conversation with someone while walking beside them, and how context changing around you continuously causes the flow of conversation to really take pathways you hadn't expected. For example, as I was actually doing this experience report, I started reading up on something here in Prague. It's called the Hunger Wall. The Hunger Wall, this is a myth, but it's a myth I happen to like. I went and looked it up, that this wall was built around the 1300s by one of the kings during a time where there was no jobs, no food. And what he decided to do was to ask the people to build this wall in the name of defense. But the key purpose of the wall was, in fact, to give the people a sense of purpose. That people needed, he didn't want to just give people money, he wanted them to have a feeling that they had a sense of purpose, that they were contributing. And that wall, to me, represents a lot of the findings that I had from some of the workshops around teamwork from this particular Let's Test. I'm going to stop here because I'm starting to breathe hard, because apparently I'm an old man, I'm out of shape. And I don't think I would have kind of thought about that if I weren't walking around up here sharing my thoughts with you. So, yeah, Hynie, I owe you one. Maybe a beer, maybe two. Oh, I definitely have to talk about Duncan Nesbitt's workshop on Cynefin. Two things I discovered. One, it's not Cynefin. I've been saying something wrong openly in public for a long time. It's Cynefin. But I believe Richard Bradshaw has shared a lot of the reading material and the videos that we watched in the workshop. So if you go looking up Duncan Nesbitt and Cynefin and Let's Test, you'll have an opportunity to watch some of these. But this is more, I more want to talk about this particular workshop. Duncan, if you're listening, it was masterful. This was the last workshop of a day, which included already another short workshop and a full-day workshop. When we sat down as a group, we were rather comfortable enough to tell one another that none of us wanted to be there. None of us had any energy left to perform anything in this workshop, and we all just kind of wished that we could sneak out and hopefully not have anyone know this. And instead, and I spoke to some other people where they were in the same boat at the start of that workshop. Instead, what I saw was a workshop that had everybody incredibly engaged, everybody running around, laughing, excited. He managed to touch on so many different things. The way that the workshop started out, we were all sharing personal, well, first of all, we got a shared understanding of what it was we were trying to do in that workshop. We understood what was the point of the workshop and how that might benefit us and why this could be of value. We then shared some very personal components of what is of interest to us, and brought these out in a very interesting new model to start a discussion. So these were all aspects of what we do in a workplace and what sort of situation we feel we are in each one of those little sticky notes that we had to describe it. Then in our small groups, we went through an exercise of actually discussing each of these problems that was brought forward and providing some insight as to how we can help move ourselves from the situation that we're in into a better situation, or a situation we'd rather be in a very well-controlled conversation that flowed really naturally. And then Duncan did something very interesting, that he started having individuals switch from one group to the next, and they would take their favorite sticky note discussion and bring it with them to the next group. So now you not only had a different group of people who have been a little bit more experienced in terms of performing this sort of analysis, giving a second piece of opinion, but even the person who brought the problem over to the next table probably changed their story somewhat because they had more information and they had a better way of thinking about it. And yeah, I found myself going from being drained to being energized in what was probably one of the best structured workshops I've ever taken part in. So Duncan, thank you. You've given me lots of ideas, and I don't know what to do with this information you've put inside my head, but I'm going to do something with it. So I appreciate that. But overall, I think I want to finish off with this message that if you haven't made it out to a Let's Test, absolutely it's something you want to try, because I'm now curious to see what it is that they're going to do next year, because they certainly do seem to be iterating and trying ideas out and trying to change things up and seeing how they can make it better or different every year. An interesting challenge I think that's going to be coming up for them is there's some really excellent things that they've done already in the past, and with new people attending Let's Test, they may really appreciate those things, even though they feel that they have to continuously keep changing it for the people who keep coming back. So it's going to be interesting to see how they balance that. It's quite possible that they can actually start leveraging a lot of the learnings they get from running Let's Tests in other parts of the world, including, for those of you who don't know, there'll be one in South Africa sometime in the late fall. And that one, based on the experiences I've had with Let's Test in Australia and Sweden, is going to be spectacular and something I really encourage everyone to check out. And I think that's it for me, because it's Prague, and if there's one thing to do in Prague, it's to eat lots of food and get fat, and that's what I'm going to go off and do now. So I hope to see you all soon at an upcoming conference, and if not, you can always find me on Twitter. I'd love to share some experiences with some people as to what they've come across in other conferences and what they've how they've applied some of these experiences back with their teams. And well, cheers.